Free-to-play gaming as a thing, we tend to think was just like whole cloth birthed. Oh, here is free-to-play gaming for you, but it's not really how things work. Things work in very slow, weird, disjointed ways where we add a thing here and a thing there. Like I like to talk about free-to-play gaming as a thing is a response to PC bangs and piracy in Asia. That's it. Like that's just what it was. You'd have a bunch of PC bangs in Southeast Asia and all of China. They'd buy games, but they'd buy games that they would install to a computer and then rent that computer for years. And so you'd have StarCraft bought one time for $40. That's all Blizzard gets. And that guy's making, hundreds of dollars just in renting that one unit out. Blizzard should make money. They made the game. Like, I'm not anti-capital. I'm not against money. People have to make a living. We need to make money, especially when something's great. So how do you do that? Well, the solution was, we allow microtrans. We allow vanity items or power boosts and these other things. Those elements then got twisted by companies like Zynga and Kabam that turned them into really hardened things that basically tricked housewives and people into clicking on websites endlessly for no skill growth at all, which is a shame. And they kind of all got gummed up. Just break it all apart, find the pieces we like. The games that tend to be most popular, and there's a kind of across the board, come in kind of two flavors. There's the gigantic, massive story-based single-use games. I'm not touching that. I like that. I dig that. The new Guardians of the Galaxy, as a very specific example, I thought was going to be because of the Avengers pile of shit that they just put out. I assumed it was going to be that. It's a fantastic single purchase story game, funny, smart. It's great. I'm not touching that. I actually think there's something to be done there, but I don't have a problem there. Let's move towards how we got to where we're at with a game like Dota, for example, or League of Legends, which are not pay to win games, but man, there's a lot going on in those games now where you have 10,000 items. There's an economy inside of it. You play mostly. There's a lot of people who play just to grind out cases, and I run into those games because I'm a shit tier player. So I run into people who are just grinding through. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens in these that changes how people play. So let's break apart all of these things. Sit back and go, skill-based games tend to be the big hits when it comes to multiplayer. The things that I can very quickly master, chess, simply put, Counter-Strike, I would say, Dota, League, these things that over time I can gain skills. Lethal League is a phenomenal example. GoldenEye multiplayer in Nintendo 64, Doom, Quake Arena. These games are high skills, psychotically high skill ceilings with very easy access. So what if we just, instead of saying, well, let's put a bunch of items in there and bring that free-to-play stuff, what if we instead said, wait, we're in a digital space. We don't have to care about scarcity. We don't at all. We have infinite everything. So if we had infinite everything, if I had a soccer pitch that anyone could play on, and it was replicated infinitely. So you and I could be playing on it at the same time as anyone else. That's cool. Why would I charge for that? I wouldn't. Like, that's stupid. It's stupid. We can all use it. But inevitably, one of us would be better than the other. And if we have 10 or 20 or 30,000 people playing, we're going to want to know who's the best. I know I'm not going to be it. I'm old and my knees are terrible now. It wasn't even good when I was younger. But someone's going to want to compete. We're going to want to see that. And as people compete, there's an emergent natural league that will form. This is how all sports works. This is how all stupid shit works. There's lumberjack competitions because of this exact same sort of emergent principle. So if you have a thing that people can get better at and be great at, that people have easy access to, let them just do it as much as you want, but you'll want that final league. So how do you get there? So for us, we see crypto and we look at it in two ways. First, we see NFTs. We don't do items. We go, what is the thing that is actually most valuable in any game? And that's the player. It's you, G-Money. You are a unique and beautiful snowflake. I am too. All of us are. We're unique one-off people. The reason I would go see Michael Jordan play basketball, as an example, or I lived in LA for a while. You go to a Lakers game, for Christ's sake. You can see some amazing people, but the reason the games matter is because, one, that's the person, and you know they're not going to play another game. This is the game. That's why we call it the game. No one says, hey, I'm going to a game tonight, unless they don't really give a shit. They're going to the game because it matters. It's the one today. Messi's not going to play 24 rounds of soccer today. That's just not how it's going to work. Football players, when they play, the quarterback staring down, a line of 12 300-pound refrigerators isn't thinking, boy, I want to be doing this all day. There's a real reality to that person's uniqueness and specialness. And guess what? NFTs give us that. And they do. It's kind of a weird thing that they are. They're not the image, but they're kind of this thing we add to the painting to give it uniqueness in time and space, just like you. So let's let that be the case. Let's let you be the NFT. So you log in using the NFT. We store your stats, all your fun stuff, and you get to play. And all of us can play. And we just keep it going. players own their own data. You know, crypto ethos, in theory, that's how I understand it. You own your own stuff. It's decentralized, and you get to just enjoy it. It sounds stupid. I've had people really get upset with me when I say this, but you can just play as much as you want. I don't care. I want you to. The same way Messi wants people playing soccer, because ultimately that's better for him. The more people just playing soccer out in their backyard, it's better for everybody.
Right.
Same for us. So as we grow and you play, at some point, if you want to join the big boys, you put your NFT in, you put your chip in, your pink slip effectively that is you, and you play. But in those rounds, it's a little different. You don't just play over and over and over and over. We shoot you in the head and we respawn like Fortnite and every other game that has made death completely worthless. Suddenly, you put yourself in and you go, I'm ready. I'm that good. And if it turns out not to be the case, and it turns out I'm better and I shoot you, then we burn your NFT and you're gone. It changes how people deal with play. It changes how play can matter. Now, when you're watching a round, picture any round of almost any video game you've seen. If you knew this was it, the Fortnite round of 100 people, 99 people are not coming back ever.
Right.
How are they going to play? Are you going to enjoy watching? I would enjoy watching that. It's a weird thing. It's an extra emotional addition to why a game matters, why this game matters, why they're playing, why they're turning. It's not just, you watch someone on Twitch, they run right at the nearest group to die sometimes because they don't like where they dropped.
Right.
Really? Did that game matter to you to watch? Did you enjoy that? The sport of it. That's where we can really start having some fun, by playing with how crypto works instead of just using it to ramify the old business models that were there accidentally at best.
I love that concept. I remember, I think the first time we ever spoke, I was just hammering
awesome.
questions, right? This concept, were you thinking about it before you got into crypto? Or was this something that really your wheels started turning once we could implement this concept?
So I'll say that specifically this concept, there's like 12 pieces that go into it, that it just contingently, I'm lucky that they all happen to roll in my brain at the same time. It's an accidental recipe because this is what I had in my cupboard because of weird events, is kind of how this ended up being what it is. I'd love to say I'm very clever. Trust me, I'd love to brag about it. I'm not. This is how it happened. We have the fact that I've always played permadeath. I always play permadeath. Holy shit. Diablo, I don't see as a game unless you're doing that. I think otherwise it's just infinite. Who gives a shit? Minecraft, I don't see as any mode but permadeath. Dwarf Fortress, I only play on the like these games that have it. I've always loved that. Conversely, I've always wanted to make games that feel something more. And there's a great game, Amnesia Dark Descent. It's the first game that I ever felt like I was chased. And it's really tough to do in a single player game. It's almost impossible in a multiplayer. It's very difficult to make a person really intensely worried that another person is chasing them, because it kind of doesn't matter. In a horror game with proper storytelling like Amnesia or Resident Evil, you can build up and get them to be terrified. That's great. But in a multiplayer, you don't have the power like you do of cinema because it's so dynamic. And so I've always wanted to make, the first game I ever really wanted to make that was licensed, after I got on Star Wars and I started realizing, oh shit, that's right, you can make licensed games. For some reason, it hadn't clicked yet, was Running Man. It's my favorite movie from the 80s. It's great. It's not like a brilliant film, but it's so fun. And it feels on its face like it should be able to be a video game. I've got a guy and I've got a few people chasing him to kill him. If they kill him, he loses. If he gets away, he wins. This rabbit and fox sort of gameplay feels like it would work, but it doesn't. As far as I'm aware, very few games that have ever really attempted the rabbit fox. We're chasing you until you're out of the city, and if I catch you, I kill you. Instead, we have to keep people in tight little circles or in arenas, because if we don't do that, there's no real risk. You end up playing with someone. I made a prototype. I've done it twice because I've wanted to play with it, but it ends up becoming like the way I run when I'm scared of my son. Like he's chasing me, we were playing Tails. I'm like, oh, I know I could punch him in the face. It's not like I'm scared of him. That's the emotion those games end up being when you play with your friends, because if someone's just slightly better than you or slightly worse than you, it just isn't fun otherwise. And so how do you fix that? How do you make this matter? Because people will kill themselves so their friends can win, so that way they can have a fun time, because ultimately that's what we want. Games are funny like that, especially social multiplayer. That's rolling around in my head. At the same time, I'm watching on a Twitch stream, some guy's going through all of his OpenSea NFTs, and he's bragging about them because they're his paintings. They're his art. And then he comes to one that's 404'd because it really wasn't uploaded properly, we'll say. He wasn't mad. Like, he was mad for sure, but it wasn't like the same way I've, seen a bank error and been pissed off like, what the fuck? He was sad. It was weird. And I kind of realized he was mourning. He thought he had a thing forever that he had lost. That's the feeling we have in a tiny version, when we lose an animal, we lose a pet, we break a statue that we had when we were kids, sentimentality, nostalgia wrapped into one. He had this feeling that connected me back to this. He now, forever now, will feel, as he looks at his other NFTs, a wonder if they're next. And this, of course, connects with me because I've been through a significant amount of death in my life. There's a loss that kind of comes and sort of sits with you the rest of your life when you go through that. And so all these things sort of coalescing into this idea of, let's ramify human life. Let's ramify the specialness of it and give us the one thing we can't have in the real world. We can't, which is blood sports. I do not believe in blood sports in the real world. I think cockfighting is awful. I think bullfighting is disgusting. I think it's stupid. But I get it. I get it. I get the excitement. I get the permanence of the fight. I get how it matters. I get the emotional connection. And you can read tracts of philosophy and poetry about these things for years. Duels in America as recently as 100 years ago. These things mattering to people. That's stupid in the real world. We have a digital space. That's where the stupid shit's supposed to go. So let's move it over. Let's see if we can play with these things mattering again. And that's those things plus a few others sort of rolling around are kind of where this, snowball started ultimately.